All right, web devs, are you ready to show your poker face? In this video, we're going to be going over freeCodeCamp's building a page of playing cards. And if you're new to this channel, my name is Rob. I'm with freeCodeCamp, where I'm a coding instructor, and I try to help you learn the material from an instructor's point of view, teaching it to a student. So if that's something that interests you, this is the video to watch. We're going to go through it from start to finish. I haven't gone through this at all, but we're going to go through it together. If we make mistakes, hey, we'll make them together. So that's the whole part of this journey here. And hopefully we'll bring up a few talking points with this. It does look like an interesting lab for us to go ahead and do complete. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to be making here. So before we take a look at this example here, if you could do us a real good favor and hit the like button on this video, it really helps out the YouTube algorithm. It's something free, that's something you can do for us. So we really appreciate that. All right, so let's go ahead and click on this example project to take a look at what we're going to be building out here. And originally when I started to take a look at this, I was looking at it from the point of view as, oh, it's just a bunch of images. It's not. This is text, and this is an image or a character that they're going to give us to copy and paste and put in there. And these are not images whatsoever. It looks like a fun little lab for us to do. And let's go ahead and start coding, start taking a look at these user stories. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off with user story number 1. You should build this web page to display at least 3 cards. And this one's an easy one. We will come back to it later, but I believe like our focus is to get 1 card at least looking decent, and then we can just refactor it in order to meet the needs of the other 2 cards that we need to do. So user story number 1, we're going to come back to. User story number 2, it says, we should have a main element with the ID of playing cards. So that one's easy. Let's go to the body here, and we're just going to go ahead and do main, and I'm going to do the closing tags. Again, good practice. Make sure that you have those closing tags on there. Next, we're going to put the ID in here, and we want playing cards to be in the quotes, and it needs to be spelled exactly the same. I've seen it before. Students will go ahead and put an uppercase P in here. An uppercase P is different than a lowercase p, so make sure anytime they give you things in here as far as the IDs, we want to make sure that they are spelled properly. That way we can pass these tests. Okay, so that satisfies user story number 2. Let's go ahead and move on to our next user story. Okay, so in this one right here, it says that for user story number 3, in the playing cards element, which is where my cursor's at right now, we should have 3 div elements with the class of card. And like I told you before, I'm going to be getting 1 card looking right, and then I'm going to just copy paste and refactor. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and just do a div here, and it wants us to have the class name card. So let's go ahead and add that. But I am going to put my closing tag on there first, and then I'm going to add the class. Okay, so in order to remind myself that I need to add 2 more, and I'm sure I'm not going to forget, but it's always good to maybe put a comment in here, a to-do, and 2 more cards. And the keyboard shortcut on the Mac is Command/, and Windows, it's going to be Control/. We'll give you those comments if you are wanting to follow along. All right, and that should help me make user story number 3 partially complete, and then we're going to go into user story number 4 here. So user story number 4 with building a page of playing cards, it says that we need to have 3 divs inside of our card class. One is going to be for the left, one's going to be for the middle, and then the other one is going to be for the right. And so what I'm imagining this being here is if we were to divide up the card here of the ace of spades into 3 different sections. So in this example here, this would be a section, this over here would be a section, and then obviously we got that last part here. And that's what I believe it is doing, is we're taking the card and then we're slicing it up into equal thirds utilizing flex. And that's how we're going to space these things out, because we can totally get maybe the flex start up here. We got the flex center here, and then we have flex end down here. So we'll see how it all plays out, but that's how I'm envisioning this to kind of work, right? So let's go back to the code here. So back to the code, and we are going to hit the enter key here, and we're going to do 3 divs, it says. So let's do this div, and then I'm going to copy and paste this a couple times. All right, perfect. Next, I need to add a class to each one of these. This one is going to be left. This one is going to be middle. And this last one here is going to be right. Okay, we're now satisfying user story number 4. And again, don't forget, we're going to do copy and pasting to get the other cards. We just want to get one right though. Okay, so I don't think that we can move on to these user stories for the styling quite yet because it doesn't give us any kind of instructions other than down here as far as what do we want to put in the left, the middle, and the right. So let's go ahead and work on these. So if I'm looking over here at the left-hand side, and if I take a look at the project example here, I have ace. Okay, we're going to make the ace of spades first. And so this right here is going to be a div. This right here is also going to be a div. So I need two divs inside of the left, one for the letter and then one for the symbol. Okay, and then once we get to the middle one, as far as the ace, since there's only one of them in there, we only get to put one in there for the middle. And then we take a look over here. It's going to be a repeat of what we did over here. So let's go ahead and use that as our good working example. So on the left-hand side class, let's go ahead. I'm going to hit the enter key, and then we're going to do a div, and then I'm going to do another div. One is going to be for the letter. Like I said, one is going to be for the symbol. So the letter, of course, is the ace. And so we get the little A up here. And then as far as this symbol goes, we're able to copy and paste these. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that and paste it right there. And so now I have the beginnings of one. And now I need to take this div that I just got done creating. And this is what's going to be going in the middle here. So let me go ahead and apply that. So I'm in the middle. I'm hitting the enter key just for spacing. And then I'm applying the little spade here. And then lastly, on the right-hand side, we want to do the divs, but we kind of want to do it in reverse order. So we want the spade to go first, and then we want the letter. So I'm going to go ahead and grab. Okay, so that should help me out when I'm getting ready to go to the styling. So I think that we have every single thing that we need so far as far as the HTML goes. We may have to add a few classes to get the spade to be flipped on the other side or the other corner, because if we looked at the example, we have this stuff here flipped. What I'm going to do now is we're going to actually do user story number 5, and we're also going to make sure that we have our styles linked, and we're going to apply a background color to the body. Again, some of these things are not on here, but we're going to do them anyway. But like I said, it's really good learning if we can go ahead and do it instead of just doing it to pass tests. All right, let's go ahead and do user story number 5. Fine. Okay, so before we can add any styling, we need to make sure that we link it, right? And that goes inside the head. Now, I told you in previous videos, if you don't know how to link it, definitely make sure that you take a look at W3 Schools, or you can use your Visual Studio Code if you're using it. I can tell you it is a problem because people even mentioned it in here. This is the freeCodeCamp forums where somebody has mistakenly mistyped the linking of a style sheet, right? And so one of the easiest things to do, just to make sure that you are correct, go to W3 Schools, grab this right here, and put it in the head section. Now, you're not going to get it to work right away because we still have to tweak it, but at least we have it syntactically correct. We have the H. It needs to reference styles.css. So I'm going to delete that part where it says my, and then I'm going to add an S on here. And let's go ahead and add in our style sheet. So I'm always telling students, especially learning, do something that can help visually you see the screen or see a change. And for that, we're going to use the body. And we're just going to do a background color, and we're going to just do something right now, something very easy. We'll do blue. I see blue. I know the styles are linked. Now we can go ahead and proceed with adding any kind of style, and we know that it's not going to be broken because we didn't link it properly. That forum example was an exact thing that new students typically do, is they'll just keep on coding till the very end, and they're like, hey, why doesn't this work? You didn't check it along the way is the issue. All right, we got the blue. Let's go ahead and pick a decent color for this here, and I'm going to go with what they used. I used a color picker to grab the color, and this is what they used. So let me remove the blue, and it's going to be the hashtag of D8, B as in Bravo, F as in Foxtrot, D as in Delta, and then 8. All right. So that is going to be the color scheme there. And now we can go along with the user story finally. Okay, so user story number 5, we are going to target the playing cards. And it says on here that we need to make sure that it is a Flexbox, so we can do display flex. Next on here, it says that they need to be horizontally centered. And so the way to go about that is we're going to do justify content center. The start of our card is now shifted over to the right to the center there. Next on here, it says that we would like them to wrap. So that's going to be flex wrap, and we want to have that setting to wrap. Okay? And then it says that it needs to have a 20 pixel space between them. And so we learned in the previous lesson, the way to do that is we either have row gap, column gap, or we can combine them both, and it can be just a gap altogether, and we want to do 20 pixels. Okay. Now, I believe that this will work for what we need, and I will add this to our card, our playing cards rather, and I'm just going to do a margin top, and I'm going to set that to 100 pixels, and that will give us a little bit of a buffer space from the top of the body there, okay? But that should satisfy user story number 5. Okay, so user story number 6, it says your card element should use a Flexbox and also be utilizing space between for the children, which means that our left, our middle, and our right are going to be utilizing something called space between. And so I did want to bring up W3 Schools again to show you what the space between is actually doing here. And let me see if I can shrink up the webpage here to show you. So we have these children, and again, try to relate this to the card that we're getting ready to design is, hey, we have the ace and the spade right here. We have something here, right here in the dead middle. And then we have something shoved all the way to the far right. Again, space between, really useful, doing nav bars, but let's compare this to space evenly. We're not going to see a card that looks like that, right? That's where they have even spaces between them. Again, we're going to be utilizing the space between in order to justify each one of the children in a certain way. So the left is probably going to, or the left is going to go on the left, the middle is going to be in the middle, and then the right is going to go on the far right. But we're going to tweak each one of those individually here as well. With that being said, let's go ahead and knock that part out. So with the card class, so again, it's a class. Classes have periods, and we're going to go ahead and type in the word card. And as far as the two properties that it says that it needs us to have in order to do space between, we need to do display flex. So we're going to do display flex, and then we're going to set the justify content, and we're going to set that to space between. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at what we can do to start making this look a little bit more like a card. Okay. So let's do that next. All right. Let's first define our width and height. And for this, we don't want Flexbox to have the freedom to smush our cards together. And so what we can do in order to make this not happen, we can go ahead and apply the following. We're going to go ahead and do a min width of 250 pixels. We're going to do a max width of 250 pixels. And then as far as the height goes, let's go ahead and do 350 pixels. Okay. And this is going to help us later on when we are going to be aligning these items here. Now, I don't know about you, but that font is small. So let's go ahead and do a font size here. Let's set that to 30 pixels. Okay, it's almost looking like a card. Let's next go ahead and give it a background color of white. There we go. Maybe a border would be nice. Let's go ahead and do 1 pixel solid black. Okay, let's do some padding. Let's go ahead and do 5 pixels for the padding. We want that all around. Okay, now we remember earlier in some other videos to keep things all contained and not utilizing padding and margins to shove and distort our cards here, because again, I do want them to be exactly 250 pixels wide. We can use that box sizing and change it to border box. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. Next, we're going to maybe apply a box shadow. Let's go ahead and create that effect. So we'll do a box shadow, and let's set that to 2 pixels horizontal, 2 pixels vertical. We'll do a blur of 2 pixels, and then we'll do gray as far as the shade there. Now those cards look a little too rigid. Let's go ahead and do a border radius. Set that to 10 pixels. It's starting to look like a card. And I think we can do one more thing here. Let's go ahead and try to center up the text with the spade here. And that's what I'm going to try to do next here. We'll do text align, and we'll change that to center. All right. I think we have the makings of a card, and I believe user stories 7, 8, and 9, and 10. We're going to go ahead and position them in a different way. I believe we're on a good start for sure. So user story number 7 doesn't make sense for me because by default it is at the start. But we can go ahead and do it anyway, just to check the box. So we'll do left, and then we will do align self, and it wants us to do the start by doing flex start. All right, and that satisfies user story number 7. Let's move on to the next one. So user story number 8, in building a page of playing cards, it tells us that the middle element should be used with Flexbox items property, align itself to center of its parent container. So again, we're going to do middle, and then we're going to do align self, but this time we are going to do the center. And that should put it down there in the center. Now, while we are on the middle class here, I would definitely like to add a few things on here, or the first thing anyway, is I would like to add in here the font size to make this just a little bit bigger. And let's go ahead and choose 80 pixels for it. And that way it will be a little bit bigger for the card. And then later on, we may come back to this once we add another card, because I have a feeling that it's going to come more into play. We see something that is maybe like a 3 of hearts, for example. Okay, so I believe that should satisfy user story number 8. User story number 9 in freeCodeCamp's build a page of plain cards. It says that the right element needs to use a Flexbox item property, so that way it aligns itself all the way to the end of the parent. And for that, we're going to do the right, we're going to do align self, and we want to set that to flex end, and that should shove everything down there. Now, the problem that we're going to solve on this one here is that our text, our A and our space, they should be upside down. So how do we get them upside down? That's going to be the problem that we're going to solve. It's not part of the user stories, so all this extra stuff is bonus, but we're going to do it. Let's go ahead and dive into that. Okay, so in order to get them to flip, we're going to use the transform property, and we're going to utilize the rotate. We want to rotate it essentially 180 degrees. So we're going to create a brand new class that is not defined by the user stories here, but we're going to call it flipped. We're going to use that transform property that we learned about in the previous lesson, and we're going to use the rotate function. So let's go ahead and do that. So here's the rotate function, and then we have to specify how many degrees that we want. We would like 180 degrees, and so we have to type in the DEG at the end and make sure they're all smashed together. Next, in order to get this to work, we have to apply the class flipped to any item that we would like to flip. So on our HTML page, I need to flip this one here. So I'm going to do class flipped, and we'll see that the spade is now flipped 180 degrees. We're going to do the same thing to the A. So once we applied the flip on it, it now does look like a card. All right, so we have a totally working card here. Now it's time to copy it and paste it a couple times, but let's go ahead and just work on the next card, and then we'll do one last one as well. So that's what we're going to do next. All right, it's time to do our next card. And I believe in the example they did 2 of clubs. So we're going to go ahead and do it. So I went ahead, copied my card, and I pasted it right below 2 more cards. After I paste it, I'm going to put in another comment in here. Again, comments are command / or control / on Windows. And then I'm going to put one more card, and I'll make that a to-do as well, just so I can keep things separate, because there's a lot of divs in one, and you could get confused really quickly. So I don't want the ace in here. I'm going to do the 2. I don't want the spades anymore. I'm going to grab the clubs. So you can see how once you get one card going, then the other cards are going to be a little different, right? Or a little bit of the same. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that, and then this is going to be a 2. Now, the problem that we have is we have a club here, but that's a single club. We need one more club, and let's go ahead and paste it. Okay, that looks decent. Let's go ahead and see what is the difference. Maybe there's a difference, maybe there's not. Let's take a look at the example real quick. It looks like the club is flipped. At this point, maybe you could pause the video and try to see if you can do that part yourself. And if not, no worries. We're going to come down here to this div here, and we're going to give it a class of flipped. Okay, perfect. Good deal. All right, let's do another one, and we'll do the 3 card. And what makes this one special from the example is that it's going to be red. So let's do our last card next. Okay, we're doing our last card. I'm going to, again, copy this, and then I'm going to paste it down here. See if I can get my tabs correct this time. And this time it's going to be a 3. And then I'm going to change this one to a 3. We can see that right there. Now, I want to make this one a heart, because it's going to make this one a little different, because the 3 happens to be a heart, which is red. So that's the thing that I'm thinking about next. So I went ahead and copied the heart, and that way we can put them all in here. And I'm going to move my talking head out of the way. We do need to add in another heart. So I'm going to do the following. So something that we can do in order to get the color changed, and remember, all of this is text, it's all font. We can create a new class. Let me just scroll all the way down here. We can create a new class just for color. And so we can call this one red, and we're just going to do color red. That's how we're going to solve this. And all we have to do is come back to the HTML page and apply the red color. So on this last card here, I'm going to say, hey, this entire card, every single one of you, I want to be red. And now our hearts are red. And I totally forgot to grab this last club and change that to a heart. So that is how we can get 3 cards on there. It's a flex. You can see that it is in fact wrapping because we're making the browser smaller. So let's go ahead and do our test to see if we got it right. All right, moment of truth here. Let's run these tests. Hopefully we see confetti. We don't. Let's see what we messed up on. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here. And it said that the middle needs to have a flex direction of column. I didn't see that, but maybe I overlooked it. And let me take a look here. So maybe it looks like I skipped the user story number 10. I didn't read it fully, but it says that your middle element should use a flex box and it should also be in a flex direction of column. So that's real simple to go ahead and add. I'm going to close out of the HTML. I'm going to go to the styles and I'm going to come down here to the middle section. And again, all it's wanting is the display to be flex. And then we want the flex direction to be column. And that should clear things up on it. All right. I believe that's the reason for the column that it's wanting that. It would be maybe for cards that are like 4 and above that have a certain amount of spacing that they need. But anyways, we made it. We did it. And let's go ahead and run the test one more time. There we go. And we are good to go. All right, so this was a fun little exercise. We got to make some cards and we did have to use a little bit more styling than what the user stories were giving us. Again, I believe that they're trying to make us use our brain for a little bit of this, but we were able to do it, able to knock it out. So if you enjoyed this video, helped you out, like it, subscribe to our channel. We're doing more videos like this all the time. So we'll see you in the next video. All right.